Here's the deal. You're being disorderly.
I'm not being.
Yes, you are. I'm arresting you for failure to identify.
I have the right to not do that.
No, you don't.
Yeah, I do. I'd like to exercise my rights and do jumping jacks with them.
All you had to do is send me your ID, you dumbass.
You mate. Thank you.
Welcome back to the LackLuster channel. In 2017, Manistee County Deputy Blake Fitch was dispatched to the Vogue Theater over a complaint about a man on the sidewalk holding a sign.
Well, we had a complaint about you. Yeah. You're harassing patrons and things like that.
I'm publishing my views freely.
Well, you can publish your views freely, but when they disturb the peace and harmony of others, then...
Who's the complaint?
The Vogue Theater.
Okay, they asked me to move from in front of their theater, so I came over here.
Where do you live at?
I live here in town.
Do you? You got an ID?
No.
What's your first name?
I don't have a name for it. I mean, am I committing a crime? Am I violating?
Believe it or not, there is a Michigan law that you are required to identify yourself upon demand of a peace officer, okay? I'm the peace officer. I'm asking you to identify yourself.
This statement is false, but for some reason we hear officers across the country claim that you must identify anytime an officer requests you to do so. This philosophy is deteriorating the ranks of law enforcement agencies everywhere. The right to be secure in your person, houses, papers, and effects is so important to the foundation of American values that it was written in the Fourth Amendment to the U.S. Constitution to prevent state actors from violating citizens' right to privacy. It is likely that when asked, most citizens fearfully fold their rights to law enforcement officers and submit to any requests made. And because it happens so often, the officers begin to believe they have the right to lawfully demand anyone's personal details for absolutely no reason. Sean knows better and is engaged in activity protected by the very First Amendment, which makes this deputy's demand to identify exponentially more egregious. Before we continue, today's episode is sponsored by YouGov. YouGov is a free, easy way to make extra cash and gift cards to places like Amazon, Nike, and iTunes, just for sharing your thoughts. As a member, you earn points for giving your opinions on politics, public affairs, products, brands, and even policing by completing short surveys and polls. I complete my surveys while I wait for these videos to upload. It's an awesome side hustle, and the extra cash helps me pay for the body cam footage used to make this content. So if you're ready to make some easy money just by taking some surveys, click my link in the description and pinned comment. A big thanks to YouGov for sponsoring this video. And now, back to our story.
I got to make sure that you're not wanted for anything and stuff like that.
Right.
So I need your name.
I don't have a name for it.
Well, then you go to jail.
That's a violation of my
No.
rights.
Until I can properly identify you, you will be held. Which means that I'll get fingerprints from you, they'll send them off, and then in a while we'll get a report back and it'll tell us who you are. Why don't you just give me your name and then we'll be done with this? And I'll say be on your merry way and we
Because
can...
I haven't committed any crime. Where's the injured party?
The deputy has now threatened to arrest Sean for engaging in free speech because someone didn't like what he had to say. Though Deputy Fitch never witnessed conduct of disorderly fashion, he accuses Sean of being just that.
Listen, okay? Here's the deal. You're being disorderly.
I'm not being.
Yes, you are. Now, do you want to give me your name or do you want to go to jail?
What's your name? Your badge number and your.
My name is Deputy Fitch and my badge number's 15. Now, what's your name? I reciprocated. You give me yours.
I'd like to exercise my rights and do jumping jacks with them.
Well, then I'm going to take you in. And then I'll search your person, and if you have an ID on you, I'll ID you that way.
Get a warrant.
I don't have to get a warrant. It's called search incident to an arrest. I'm arresting you for failure to identify.
You took an oath to withhold the Constitution?
That is part of the Constitution and the state law. okay? You're required by state law to identify yourself when I ask.
I have the right to not do that.
No, you don't.
Yeah, I do.
Not according to the law.
I do. Yeah, I do.
All right, let's go. Come on.
Get your hands off me.
He did not physically resist, but verbally protested. Defendant Fitch responded by slamming Sean into the cement wall. While Sean cried out, Defendant Fitch grabbed Sean by the throat and pinned him against the wall. Fitch then spun Sean around and allegedly kicked him on the right leg with such excessive force that it fractured Sean's tibia. He continued to assault Sean, though he never physically resisted. Sean was taken to the hospital and his leg was put in a cast. He was then held at the Manistee County Jail for almost 2 days before bonding out. The next day, the prosecutor refused to prosecute and dismissed the charges after reviewing the body cam footage. 3 months later, Sean sued Manistee County and Deputy Fitch in his individual capacity for constitutional violations including unreasonable seizure, arrest and detention, excessive use of force, and a violation of Sean's First Amendment right to peacefully protest.
This guy has a gun. He's trying to steal my property.
On the 8th of October, 2021, the court granted in part and denied in part a motion for summary judgment for his unlawful arrest. The court found that Deputy Fitch appeared to be under the incorrect impression that Michigan law requires a person to produce a form of identification upon the request of an officer, but because there is no such law, the arrest was ruled unlawful. They also found that any reasonable officer employed by the state of Michigan should know that Michigan does not have a law requiring citizens to produce their identification upon any request by an officer, and that his mistake of law was not objectively reasonable.
I'm trying to identify you.
I'm a man! A living man of flesh and blood! You have no jurisdiction!
Defendant Fitch attempted to argue for qualified immunity, claiming that the law in Michigan is not clearly established regarding whether a person violates Michigan's resisting and obstructing statute when they fail to produce a form of ID upon the request of an officer. However, the court found that Defendant Fitch could not be protected by qualified immunity because the Fourth Amendment is clearly established constitutional law that even my audience seems to understand better than most officers.
This guy's attacking me. Now he's going through my pocket.
As for the excessive force claim, the court found a genuine dispute of material fact as to whether Defendant Fitch was protected by qualified immunity for kicking and breaking the leg of a man who was being unlawfully arrested. Furthermore, he claimed that as soon as his backup arrived, Deputy Fitch de-escalated his force. However, the body camera footage directly contradicts his statement as it shows that the deputy sat on top of Sean for about 4 minutes after he was handcuffed, and other officers arrived at the scene.
Okay, officer.
I am now.
Okay, we're going to come up here and help you. Go ahead.
Yeah, you gotta help this. You gotta help him. My rights are being violated.
I often see comments that complain that I rarely provide updates. That's because sometimes updates never come around. Other times, a lawsuit can settle under a gag order, and no one ever knows the outcome. But often, the justice system is utilized to prevent good lawyers from taking civil cases like this one, where it took nearly 6 years to finally settle the lawsuit for a staggering $375,000.
Until I can properly identify you, you will be held.
It's obvious that law enforcement agencies must train their officers better to avoid violating our most basic, inalienable human rights, because this is an absolute disgrace, and is perhaps one of the most un-American things I've seen in a long time.
All you had to do is show me your ID, you dumbass.
As always, let me know how you feel about this encounter, and perhaps what you think we could do to ensure that our law enforcers know enough about the law to properly enforce it. If you enjoyed this video, use the links on screen to watch another.